the clear light luminosity of the dream state. The instruction of walking or all the activities that one is engaging in is never to be separated from the two-fold bodhicitta, never to be separated from mindful awareness. Then wherever one goes, it would become just like taking a pilgrimage or making a circumambulation around the temple or something like that. So in the beginning, it is important to cultivate this inner perseverance or diligence. For example, at certain times, like in the evening, one shouldn't take too much food. Unlike me sometimes eating like a pig, or we should have a certain time to go to sleep. Sometimes this is not possible because some people have different duties and work and different things to do. We don't have always the opportunity to have our food and sleep criteria that we would like to have being met. What we can do is to maintain at all times mindful awareness and heedfulness. One has entered the Buddhist teachings, and our teachers always say, first one takes refuge in the outer three jewels. That is the Buddhas of the three times, the 84,000 aggregates of Dharma teachings, the three vehicles, countless bodhisattvas, the vehicles of self-liberation or pratimoksha, the bodhisattva and the secret mantra vehicles. After one has received the refuge vows, one takes refuge in the inner three jewels. The inner Buddha is one's mindful awareness. The Dharma is love and compassion. If you are never separated from love and compassion, then you will be able to prevent the arising of afflictive emotions. Then you have become a Sangha. So all all the teachings are basically a method to maintain mindful awareness and heedfulness. So this is what is the actual torch for our next lifetime. It is mindful awareness.
Many disciples in the beginning have strong devotion to the Dharma, but sometimes they have a very initial impulsive devotion. Many immediately want to become a monk or want to go into retreat. But whether or not this will happen depends on one's own karma. And if one has that karma, then naturally one will become a monk or stay in retreat. And here in the West, it is difficult to become a monk or to stay in retreat. But even if one doesn't have that opportunity, one should still train and tame one's mind. The Buddha has said, completely subdue your own mind. So what one can do is to practice just according to the 37 Bodhisattva practices. Read them every day and make it your own law that you have to follow. Just be in accordance with this law at all times, and in this way tame your mind. In this way you will purify your mind each and every day, and will cultivate love and compassion each and every day. Then all the great qualities will arise from this loving mind. Then later on, one can still become a monk or go into retreat, formal retreat practice. But first of all, one needs to purify and tame one's mind. Generally, in terms of becoming a monk, there are many faults and many qualities in becoming a monk for monks, and there are also many criteria that needs to be met. Also, in terms of going into retreat, if one doesn't purify and tame one's mind beforehand, then one's body only will be in retreat and the benefits will be very small. So now we have an opportunity to apply these practices into all our activities to maintain mindful awareness, which is ulama at all times. So principally, the path of the Buddha is not to be distracted and to maintain mindful awareness at all times. It is said that mindful awareness is the foundation of all great attributes. In a dharmic and also in a worldly sense, when we constantly maintain mindful awareness, we will make perfect performance, and also we will not encounter many obstacles. Maybe sometimes due to some negative karma accumulated in the past, we may encounter some obstacles, but even those obstacles can be transformed into siddhis or spiritual attainment. So Milarepa has engaged his meditation practice in many hardships. First, Marpa, the translator, has taught him the meditation, and after that he went to practice in a cave, and he, in order to not lose mindful awareness, he took a butter lamp and he put it on a pretty heavy rock which he placed on his head. If he were to move a little bit, then it would fall down from his head. Also, it was heavy. This rock actually can be seen also even these days. And how did this strong perseverance arise in Milarepa? First, there was a strong conviction in karma, cause and effect, fear of the suffering of the lower realms. Depending on this fear, this diligence has arisen. If we compare this to ourselves, we are sitting and immediately our backs are hurting, and then we think we need a more comfortable cushion.
나한테 너무 같이 너무 애상 되게 생기 너무 같이 말하나 대단한 말하나 나만 잘할 생각하고 말하는 게 다른 거잖아. 이것도 어디 뭐 가르치고 있어 파기제고 해.
So what was it that made Milarepa have this heavy stone on his head? It was fear of the suffering of next lifetime. People who are unaware of this, only if they experience a little bit of suffering immediately, it is unbearable for them, and some of them commit even suicide. They are wasting away their precious human incarnation. They think that, for example, if they have physical illness, if they separate themselves from their body, then they will separate themselves from their illness or their suffering. But this is not the way it is. Who is creating this illness or suffering? Ultimately, it is self-clinging. Self-clinging gives rise to afflictive emotion, and impelled by the afflictive emotions, we engage in action, we accumulate karma. This has created the suffering or the illness. If we do not separate ourselves from the afflictive emotion, we cannot separate ourselves from suffering. If we do not separate ourselves from anger, we cannot separate ourselves from the hell. If we do not separate ourselves from stinginess, we cannot separate ourselves from the hungry spirits. The antidote against these is the practice of the Holy Dharma.
그러니까 바디에 강요를 넘어가는 거예요. 이제 바디에 살고는 따뜻한 합의 제거해서 당연히 말하면 때는 사자집을 따라가고 가지 락 죽을 거라지 사기도 공공 세부대로 죽을 거라지 사기 여기 세부대로 내가 또는 돈 터지나 다음 가면이구나 다 예단 걸 하고 예단 걸 하고 막다 이렇게 복잡한 거 하고 막 복잡한 거 이 맞다 세부 복잡한 거 사족세비 뭐 따라가면서 아빠는 그냥 대지 때려도 있기는 딱 가리게 되거든요. 사고는 써먹었다. 야, 좋은 아니었다가 나한테 힘을 시, 나한테 강해서 나기서 사족생, 사기 유성을 사는데 사족생이 누구요? 나 무슨 누구요? 뒤에서는 나를 보통 좀 서로 사족생이 이게 사족생이를 뒤에 보통 나디 때 총성 이걸 사족이는 소리다가 박차 이로 아오는 이손 나도 배는 특히 노마 주는 특히 노마 기내서 지금 강서 사족 대기원 이상 기원 동네 내가 비마다 많이 봐. 나도 세와 치고 이치 치고 지고 내 바이 치고 아예 치고 나도 산에서 산에 탐지에 생긴다 그런 빠지고 받아서 세와 산에 톡 죽고 나가다 그러면 뭔가 자송정 말을 어리 보여줬다 나에다 막 요거에 내가 소화한다 소화 두목을 우려 무슨 저 나오고 하는가 말라 무슨 그렇다 말아 내 말 그렇다 소화도 말아 마 내가 너무 좋아 이게 사고 말이야 생각 사람들이 사는 죄지 띵이야 다른 그런 게 너무 한꺼번에 있어요. 반어를 이루어가요. 이걸 빠지는 라이사는 이나 다른 쪽을 걸거려. 너무 심한 루트 걸거려. 된 너무 좋아하지.
And also the fear that we experience during the departed state after we have died arises from our afflictive emotions. And in order to dispel this, one needs to engage in the practice of the Holy Dharma. Ideally, one recognizes the nature of one's mind through recognizing the view of Mahamudra. Then one would be able to transfer one's consciousness into the Dharmakaya, the Dharmakaya power. If one has recognized the nature of the mind little, but has not habituated this state and still experiences some difficulties, then one relies upon the practice of the Yidam deity and the mantra recitation. Through the visualization of the Yidam deity, we purify negative propensities of the body. Through reciting the deity's mantra, we purify negative propensities of speech. And through maintaining a mind of bodhicitta, we purify mental propensities. This is what we always say during an empowerment. If one applies those great diligence in the deity meditation, one will give rise to a bodhicitta, which is the all-knowing primordial awareness of all the deities. Bodhicitta is the origin, it is the mind of all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. That is the reason why we always say, when we engage in deity practice, we first and foremost must give rise to bodhicitta. If we give rise to bodhicitta, we will decrease our self-clinging. If we remember the deity, if we have the deity arise in our mind, then we will forget the physical propensities of our own body. We will forget the thinking of the self. Any deity can be practiced, para or Teresic. Any one deity should be practiced without any distraction. In order to accomplish the deity, one needs to practice the deity with great devotion, love, and conviction. All the deities arise from the Buddha's mind, who has the awareness of all sentient beings to be their children, a mother-children relationship. The mind of the Buddha is the Dharmakaya that abides like the expanse of space. And the Sambhogakaya is all the manifestations of that mind, such as the appearing like the light rays of the sun or appearing like a rainbow in the sky. Naturally, all the deities will appear. Depending on the practice of the deity, we will actualize the two siddhis, the common and the extraordinary spiritual accomplishments. During the empowerment, we always make a supplication prayer saying, please bestow upon me the siddhi of mantra. If we maintain mindful awareness, then our mind will transform into the deity. At that time, after we have passed away in the parallel state, we experience fear, but this fear is only created by concepts and afflictive emotions, since in this state there is no real body. If one can maintain the clear appearance of the deity in that state, then one will gain enlightenment into the Sambhogakaya, or the Sambhogakaya Poa, or consciousness transference, and the Pure Lands will become manifest.
얘는 사제 당시 떼왔지고 무슨 사제 당시 똑대 무슨 여지구나 내 떼왔지고 얘 집에 시계 뭐래 집에 시락 사제 시락 파소 잡는 데 잡는 거 사제 독대적이고 세팅은 사제 당시 독방중에 시작 가서 세팅 당시 생각 군지가 직접 말해봐 그것도 뭐라는 게 얘는 걔가 라면 배우기 잘 봐도 이게 얘는 마음에 봐 사기 탐지 뛰어왔지 대시랑 라면 아마타로 산재탑이다 산재 탐지 라면 보여주시고 난 아마타로 뛰어왔지고 나는 이쪽 찾으니까 나 그리고 뒤에서 강하게 너가 돼가지고 산재 탐지 사족 생각 갑자기 새끼 던졌다. 야, 그래. 갑자기 새끼 던졌다. 맞고 받아고 그래. 누가 이거 돼? 있나? 맞고 말고 갑자기 새끼 던졌다. 이빈을 못하게. 그래봐, 제발. 다리가 아기가 다 넣고 대봐. 이 진짜 대박이야. 대통령 가면 싸만 그래 그런 거지. 대통령 나는 잡지만 대통령이지. 이치 다루고 있어 대바라기. 딴 데는 다른 대바도 없지. 사제당 민지도 없고 나는 대바도 사제 이해가. 이게 사계 생기기 와서 이게 주니 이제 여기서는 주니 인기도 추진도 없잖아. 생기 참기를 내시는 자료가 제일 똑치. 내가 생기는 자동다. 생기 보내줄 거는 내가 조금 자동다고 찾고 대신나 생기는 사진이 있는 걸 보시나. 저거는 정말 거기로 같이 들어가고 그거나 어때 주지도 없지. 똑똑한 느낌이더니 다시 지켜야 되더라.
So many people have the intention to engage in the deity practice, to engage in the generation stage practice of the deity, but one will not accomplish it if one does not apply great perseverance and diligence in the practice. In order to accomplish, one needs to rely on three powers in order to receive the powers and blessings of the deity. The first power is the power of devotion. Devotion is threefold. It is clear devotion, longing devotion, and devotion of conviction. So the first one is clear devotion. That is understanding the attributes of the deities and their origin. The Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal asked Guru Rinpoche, where did all the deities come from? And Guru Rinpoche replied, their origin lies within bodhicitta. The Buddhas of the three times have vast love and compassion for all sentient beings. As it is said in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, the perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. First, they have given rise to vast love and compassion, and depending on that have attained the state of Buddhahood. So all the Buddhas have strong love for all sentient beings. One can have assurance that that power is actually present. Then it is their all-knowing wisdom, Buddha nature that pervades all the minds of sentient beings. Therefore it is said, all sentient beings have inherent and are endowed with the Buddha, with Buddha nature. Our basic mind and the wisdom mind of the Buddhas, as it is said in the aspirational prayer of Samantabhadra, is one and the same. There is one basis, yet two paths and two results, as it is said in this prayer. all the Buddhas have great love for all sentient beings. They have the awareness of their beings to be like their children, like a mother has love for her child. And if the mother has love for her child, she can protect their children. So this is the clear devotion. Then the second one is the longing devotion. That is again the understanding that the wisdom mind of all the Buddhas pervades all the minds of all sentient beings in the three worlds. The Buddhas have love to sentient beings like a mother does to her child. Then we should think not only me but all sentient beings in the three worlds should be protected. One should give rise to the altruistic mind, wishing that self and others will find liberation. That is the longing devotion. And the devotion of conviction is to be free from all doubts. As Guru Rinpoche has said, one shouldn't have any doubts that the deity will provide protection. So this is the power of devotion. Then the second power is the power of the compassion of all the Buddhas. And the third power is the understanding that the basic mind of all sentient beings and Buddhas is one and the same. And this power is called the Dharmadhatu power. It is only temporarily that sentient beings are sentient beings. It is like water that has been frozen into ice. Its real nature is water. So in ultimate reality, there are no sentient beings. If one understands this, one understands that all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature. And then one understands that all sentient beings can find liberation. So depending on these three powers, one should cultivate firm conviction.
이렇게 되나 뭐가 되냐? 그냥 좀 참고 싸워 나와 싸워나 바꿔도 바꿔야 돼. 그래서 바꿔도 바꿔 길 있어 참 세도 내려온다. 샤다 빨리 마찬가 빨리 마찬가 마오 너무 많다고 예보는 생탕적이고 요거는 맞지지요. 근데 많다고 이미사고요. 많다고 늘 말해. 세비 마오네 봐. 세비야. 세번거 대로 나파다니 메롱동과 메롱을 세번은 싹고 나서는 인지 말해. 세번 내려고도 맞으니 요게 가는 앞으로 말해. 나사 비네 세번대로 나와 다들 하고 세번대로 금메도 없어서 시비를 맞춰야 대나 대들이 대부터 화를 꺼져 남자 뒤나 화를 꺼져 뭘 세번 중요하죠 그래 다 가는 데라고 나비야 세번 동안 나가잖아 나바살라지 나바살라이나 야 나가 또 우리 가래리 나가 소 우리한테 사족 세야 이거로 나 얘가 얘나 내가 세비 샤를 나 무슨이다 말이 상관없어 그렇게 오 막 세비 이야네 그래도 쳐다보면서 이렇게 된 거지 사제 생기나 가서 기빠게 사제 생각 나서는 여와요 얘지 얘는 마음이 완전 다 되는 데다가 이거 내가 뭐라고만 참는 게 얘는 나도 미통잖아 나도 미통잖아 어떻게 제와고 이렇게 하지 정말 찍다는 게 그러나 뭐 진짜 사제 깍세 말라 나지 싸워 사주 세요 오 다만 이빙으로 산지기 끼면 다른 말 생각하서 내래샤 선수도 계속 내봐요 얘를 많이 할 때나 오 학생 무슨 말이지 왜냐 내가 받아가 나지 요리다 나지 미워지 나지 비서 말 남자 할수 많이 할 때나 근데 남자 말이나 빠따를 비지 잘로 좋아 좋다 그런 방법으로 대답이 너무 좋고 그러지는 난 세계적인 띵이 틀려지지. 지역관을 내리게 틀려나고 그걸 보내주고 대통령이 이거 저기서 차려야 되는 어서 신지다로 딱 가서 와야 되는 쫙부터 다 이게 되는 거예요. 내가 딱 보고 봐. 우리 저렇게 대통령이나 이게 배를 나빠도 바로 스마트폰 이게 바로 스마트폰 이게 사진 용기도 같이 해주는 거야. 야, 자수는 고성들은 맥주는 야 고성들은 이게 야 뭐라 나리지 나빠싸라 다됐으니까 그냥 잘 만약 이바는 나도 수생활이 있어 아무나 지와치 모르고 나랑 지와치 뭐 나다 기반이 나니까 이제로라 esto sangatini 가면은 계산 가리로 나가 사리 기나 나도 조금만 좋다고 그러더라. 그래서 봐도 아니네요. 나빠도 봐도 아니고 제대로 뭘 해지 박차는 뭐 너 내가 말하는 너무 깨주려라. 아까는 씨는 아유 우리 노화가 뭐라 알아보자 생각하면은 시험은 보이게 문제잖아요. 자기 이름은 마샤디 필사하고 나디 기는 마샤 송사디 샤로라 말이 해야 이거 마샤 송사디 나게 샤로라 같이 학송
Then when it comes to the actual meditation on the deity, there is also three criteria, 3 points that need to be complete. The first one is the clear appearance of the deity. To have the deity's form clearly appear to one's mind, as it is depicted, for example, in a tanka. The mind is like a mirror, and anything can be reflected within that mirror. So first one should contemplate the benefit of the deity arising in the mind, and the thoughts of it not arising in the mind. If it doesn't arise in the mind, then there is the thought of I. Then there is self-fixation. So to have the deity clearly appear into the mind is the first criteria. Then secondly is the divine pride that needs to be cultivated. Generally, when we are young, we give easily give rise to pride, and when we get old, then we get tired. But generally, when we now engage in deity yoga practice, one should have the conviction that I am this deity. I am not this body. My actual nature is in the nature of the deity. When when one then thinks then I am the mind, then one should look at the nature of the mind. When one looks at the nature of the mind, then all one will see is mind abiding like the expanse of space. Mind is like a mirror, and anything can be reflected in that mirror. Mind abides like the expanse of space in a union of clarity and emptiness. Mind's nature cannot said to be existing, nor can it said to be non-existing. It is beyond expression, beyond description, and beyond conception. One only should let the mind rest in its natural state. It cannot be given any name. If one cannot remain within that state, then one needs to recall the form of the deity and keep it in one's mind, have it appear in one's mind clearly, as it is depicted in the deity or in the tanka. Again, like Guru Rinpoche has said, what is the life force of the deities? The true life force of the deities is bodhicitta. So when we give rise to bodhicitta as we engage in deity practice, then we truly establish a connection to the deity. Since the basic nature of mind is one and the same, it is like clear water. It is our Buddha nature, and that is shared by all sentient beings and by all the Buddhas. So if we give rise to bodhicitta, I have truly established a connection to the Buddha. But if I continue to give rise to the thought of I, then I will continue to fixate on the I and will accumulate actions and wander about in samsara. But if there is no self-clinging and if love has been cultivated, then the deity is exactly inherent within me. That exactly is the deity. If I have given rise to love and have separated myself from self-clinging, then I am the deity. In this way, the deity truly exists within myself. In that moment where I have given rise to the altruistic mind and have separated myself from self-cherishing, there is no doubt that my own mind is the deity. So one should have a conviction and a divine pride and knowing that one's own mind in actuality is the deity. As soon as self-clinging has diminished, in that instant the mind has become the deity. So that's the second criterion. And then the third point is pure perception, recalling purity. When we visualize deities, then they have different appearance, different hand implements, and different garments, and so forth. We should understand them to be symbols of the enlightened qualities of the deity. For example, a symbol of the enlightened activities of pacifying, wrathful, magnetizing, and enriching enlightened activity. For example, take the deity Yamantaka. It has different, its fierce appearance has, they all are a symbol of the enlightened quality of the deity. So if one understands this, then one understands, for example, that its 6 legs represent the perfection of the 6 parameters. All the qualities of the Buddhas arise from the practice of the 6 parameters. Its 3 faces or 3 eyes represent the 3 Buddha embodiments or 3 kayas. So again and again one should give rise to the clear visualization of the deity, have it clearly appear to one's mind. And then one should cultivate divine pride with the conviction that I really am the deity. When first and foremost one must give rise to love in order to establish the connection to the deity. And thirdly, one remembers the pure qualities of the deities. If one has those 3 criteria complete, then when fear arises, immediately one will be able to remember the deity and one will find protection from the deity. And this especially is helpful in the powerless state after one's death. One will find liberation. For example, Rinpoche says, I myself have experience with that. Although not many qualities, I always recite the Tara mantra. One time we were driving in a car, 4 people in the car, and the car had an accident. Immediately I could remember the deity, and nobody in the car died. Nobody was harmed. If there would have been self-clinging and fear of I am going to die, then maybe somebody would have died.
라지 당시 느끼기가 원래 이제 다 빠진 거였어. 되게 한국에서 하는데요. 하루에 또 지금 노화까지 그러고 봐. 야, 노화까지 내 답은 나와야나. 영가는 야, 새끼 당시 유나 영가를 영가까지 원래 그런데 시럽 먹고 나도 이거 시간을 가지고 그랬지나 라지도 되고 이제 다 봐. 내가 다 맞아 지시나 그래지 이 로컬리도 기대는 정도에 상가 나와서 뭐나 로컬리 그렇게 that's all I got 로컬리 될라기 말이야. 나시 자꾸 고와지 상하 이런 또 sama tawa dia pertama pasang acung macam ni, sama tawa dia tu kena macam, kalau pasang acung, dia nak, 모습이 당신 가만히 차장 소위 차장 나와 매만 오더래. 대비 중앙 그게 생기도 이제 생 이제 영화 제기가 남기는 말. 그래. 다 받아니까 내가 말하고가 사천에 농아지 통보이로래. 얘네한테 끝봤다 그래. 동무서 하지 말고 농아지도 줘야 당신 다 말해봐. 내가 끝봤다. 그런 걸 이러래. 남생식이 유일하게 먹어봐. 이 시간에. 걔는 안 들어가서 먹으면 가야 제일 먹으면 싫은 줄 그러더라. 어이. 이 시대의 시작된 매다 그러면 용어가 좀 생각을 잘 벌써 써하다 대하고 소송이 합쳐지니까 이와 됐다 그래. 쟤는 성질 비기가 장비가 돼. 나는 윤대다. 서로 이걸 빼. 새를 생기를 빼. 나 때문에 새를 찾았잖아. 내 비기가 참 남별가는 얘다가 하고 시작하나. 대답이 제일 잘한다. 사종 생각을 제일 내가 하고 통하면서 다음 상황에 남편이 대답을 해봐 마시면 난 듣고 또 올리겠어. 그냥 상하다가 이거로만 다 이기네요.
When one wishes to engage in deity practice, also certain criteria need to be met. And the most important criteria is bodhicitta. If one possesses bodhicitta, then one can understand that both self and others, and the outer container, which is the universe, and the inner contents, the sentient beings, are pure from the basis. Then one can understand the view of secret mantra. The outer universe that consists of the 5 elements are in actual nature, if realized through pure perception, the 5 great mothers or consorts. And the inner sentient beings who are afflicted by the 5 mental afflictions, if recognized through wisdom, they will be realized and transformed into the 5 types of wisdom, pure from the basis. Only temporarily we have an impure perception. In the Jikung Kagyu songs it is said, if one has not cultivated bodhicitta in the outset, one cannot realize the view of Vajrayana. Therefore first one needs to cultivate bodhicitta through recognizing that all sentient beings have been one's parents in one or the other lifetime. One needs to rid oneself from all biased thoughts of attachment and aversion, understanding that all sentient beings have one single ground, yet there are 2 paths. So the inner sentient beings, the afflictive emotions, are also pure and their basis. Like the outer universe, temporarily we have a perception of it to be impure. We see earth, water, fire, wind. We see the 4 elements. Ultimately, these are just illusions. They have not been created. They are naturally pure. And also the mind of sentient beings with the afflictive emotions. If one understands the practice, then those afflictive emotions will do no harm. They will be realized to be primordial awareness. Mindful awareness is like fire, and the afflictive emotions are like the fuel for the fire. They become fire when consumed by the fire. That is the view of Vajrayana. If one understands this practice, then one understands the way of being of the outer universe and the inner sentient beings. Although there is an infinite amount of sentient beings and outer universe, they all are contained within one's own being. Within one single person, the outer universe and the inner sentient beings are contained. If one understands this, one has understood the meaning of the unsurpassed Tantra. So So first and foremost, one needs to give rise to bodhicitta. If one continues to only think about oneself, one cannot realize the view of Vajrayana, for there will continue to be a dualistic fixation of self and others.
나야 수학 보면 sempre 뛰고 차야 싸우고 차야 다과 뒤시 말고 싸우기 다 성공 제들이 다 배워 승태적인 걸 나한테 양성 긴 말이 빠지나 그리 나 돌아서 보는 것도 보고 차지 나 걸러 왔다가 나 보면 가만히 사자 주고 사자 주고 하는 거거든 only the media are from the world. Therefore, some of the thoughts of the class is here and not zero. Well, Master took them down. Yeah, for what's up, I think, or the poet is not a guy or so they got all the the king or okay, they got it's not to send the king, but the king was not the king. 같이 비는 세분들이 다 있으니 봐. 정말 예약만 해도 그래요. 제가 지금 뭐 비는 하니까 막 자와 딱와 어디 다 준비 나야 봐. 메이드 생사고 있는 거예요. 되게 새로 가지고 많이 좀 잡기들이 정말 다시 잘 좋은 거죠. 인사도 아마 뛰나 그거 가요. 이거만 다시 아마 기회들이 좋다 무슨 이거만 다 걸어요. 생각만 보면 다음에는 류에서 나니들이 유무가 대답과 작성 나니는 필요 없어요. 나 기만 다들 이런 거래 참 나니 남들이요 이거래 똑같이 또 남들이요 또 많이 이런 비만 이때 그 생부터 대신에 거래 이들을 왜 따는 무슨 배기로가 하고로 이때 좀 제가 안 참는 데는 좀 뒤쪽에 어디 뒤에 따기 약간 뒤에 땡파 담아 좀 공항으로 그렇게 봐지 그냥 나무시 담아서 공항으로 이렇게 동쪽과 차야 하나 돌치고 탑 막을 까가지고 가서 저쪽 때문에 남들이 투파 남들이 오구나 남들이 다 잡혀요 말이에요 얘들랑 참는 데는 이도 보면 남들이 남들이 예지
So when we engage in the practice of generation stage yoga, we also need to apply great diligence. First, we have, for example, achieved or obtained the empowerment of one particular deity, and then we may have a commitment, like a certain number that we need to recite the mantra, like for example 1 million times we need to recite the mantra. Then we focus on the number and we say like, in this 1 month I will be able to accumulate 1 million mantras on my mala. Merit will be obtained from that, even if focusing on the number, because as one is visualizing the deity and reciting the mantra, one's mind will become stable and clear. The purpose of engaging in mantra recitation and deity visualization is in order to achieve clarity, stability, in order to maintain mindful awareness. Therefore, we focus on the deity single-pointedly and give rise to its picture again and again within our mind. Then we come to the meditation of Mahamudra. When we practice the deity, then that in itself is the practice of emptiness and compassion. That goes so far that we do not forget the deity anymore. We become so stable in practice that we do not forget. It is like you have just given birth to a baby, and then you leave it in your home and you have to go out and do some work. You always have to think about the baby. You would never forget it. Through mindful awareness and love and compassion. So in this way, we familiarize ourselves with the deity, and we habituate mindful awareness, bodhicitta, and heedfulness through thinking about the deity again and again. Then we will come to a point where we will not forget the deity, where the deity and myself have become non-dual. Also, due to the mantra recitation, our mind becomes very clear. As we recite the mantra, we need to be careful to recite it clearly and also pronounce it properly. So, for example, you can recite Om Mani Padme Hum or Taratu Taratura Soha. The more you recite, the clearer your mind will become. As you apply yourself to the practice, you apply body, speech, and mind single-pointedly, and you purify negative propensities and self-fixation, referring to body, speech, and mind simultaneously. So what is the benefit of having the deity appear to one's mind? If one, for example, continues to think about Theresic, then there is no self, there is no fixation to a self, since there is only one mind. And if one's mind is merged with Theresic, then there is no thought of the self. That is the benefit. If one begins to think about the self again, then again the negative propensities and karmas will be activated. Now it is like wearing old dirty clothes, which is like our self-clinging. If we just take them off, all that is left is Buddha nature that always has been there. So through investigating that intellectually, one can understand the great benefits of applying great diligence in the deity practice. So we need to try to, as we engage in deity practice, to remind ourselves of the deity again and again and to recite its mantra. And if it is difficult for us to recite a particular mantra, we can also only rely upon the Vajra recitation of Om Ahum, which has the same essential meaning as all the other mantras. Vajrayana provides infinite methods without much difficulty. So one never will be left without a practice in the Vajrayana. One only needs to apply great diligence in the practice.
이거 말하면 처음만 핑치보다 아주 개방장하는 게 아니야. 핑마다 노바지나 데라 삼식이도 노바고 그러지 송을 때 이치기는 네가 짧은 삼식은 노바를 빼는 머리 맨날 고독에 나도 지제지 머리 고래 어째도 되고 라마 여신이 잡고 그래 라마 여신이 세대세 왔지 보여 이 세대라는 라나 삼식이 되게 잡고 있거든 람띠 여기 걔들 가서 첫째 잡고 있거든 라마 여신이 속대 미샤르가 기빠르가 기빠르가 지혜가 유대를 따라야 하는 말이야 저기 여활 봐 로마 때리 조금 생각하고 같이 나한테 제발 제발 괜찮지 제발 제발 최소한 면은 제발 잡고 또 제발 잡고 제발 저라고 정말 많이 잘하고 계속 사실 내가 니가 파스타는 보면 설계가 굉장하고 나가서 저 봤던 주제를 해봤지 뭐 이걸 깨요. 맞아. 제발 배우고 있어는 그냥 설계인데 우선 진동을 해. 제발 배우는 이런 거라. 이 별날 어떻게 해야 되는 말이지. 저 몸을 납니다. 저 몸부터 내가. 일단 내려가서 보면 핑퐁성보다 양산하는 주인이 사람 또 주석을 먹고 이제 많이 이상으로 와. 이제 전환사께 영화지. 근데 있다고 나와서
So it is the Yidam deity that provides us with the ultimate protection, and that we need to rely upon when we practice these rituals, when we engage in meditation practice, when we go for refuge. We need to rely upon the Yidam deity. Samsaric sentient beings have an attachment to their friends and their relatives, like their parents. They think their parents or their children are so great, and they have a strong attachment to them in their mind. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it is said, worldly gods cannot provide any protection. Only go for refuge into these three jewels. When we go for refuge into the Yidam deity, then we should try to remember that at all times, when we are walking, when we are sitting, in every instant. As soon as we will be able to remember the deity, all our difficulties and suffering will be eliminated, and that especially will be of benefit in the Pardo state after we have died. As soon as we are able to remember the Yidam deity in the Pardo state, our minds will become inseparable. Now when we think that our friends and relatives will provide us any protection, then we are mistaken. Of course, that does not mean that we should not love them. We have to love them, and we have to have the wish to benefit them. But we shouldn't have any hopes and expectations that we will receive any benefit in return from them. We need to practice love, compassion, and patience towards them, just according to the 37 practices. But one should not think that they can provide us any protection. If one thinks that they will be ultimately able to protect us, one is strongly mistaken. The one who provides us with ultimate protection in this lifetime and in all future lifetimes are the spiritual friends. But what will ultimately lead to protection is if we cultivate love and compassion within our mind, is to understand the path of what actions need to be adopted and what actions need to be abandoned. That is what is protecting us. It is not the actual body of the teacher that is protecting us. The body of the teacher is made of flesh, blood, and bones, just like ours. it is a compounded phenomena. It cannot give us protection. So one is mistaken to think, oh, this body is the Lama and will give us protection. What gives us protection is the love that we have cultivated for each other when we have died, and then it is this love that will protect us. And also for as long as we are alive, it is this love that will protect us. Therefore, it is said that love is even stronger than the light rays of 100 suns. So of course we need to love others. We have to love our friends and relatives, but we should not have any hopes or expectations to receive anything in return. It is the same way with the practice of generosity. One should have the wish to give to others, but one should not have the expectation or hopes to receive anything in return. Then one will not receive the results of generosity. So of course one needs to cultivate strong love for one's relatives and friends, but one should not have any hopes to receive anything in return.
로빠가 나와시면 들어가요. 주식수가 지나고 나기에 차차로빠는 들어가요. 제가 대통령 샤로 왔으니까 언론입니다. 이게 로빠는 무슨 말이야? 사도들도 나한테 세고 나한테 세도잖아. 기존 나한테 들어가지고 우리가 막히게 팔 나한테 대기도 몰라. 대기도 니로 니 세로가 니로 오나면 나와 차리면 니 타기사 뭐 세도
What if his face was gold? No.
제대로 생활하려는 내 나디 내리 맞아 맞아 안들 왜 나와를 모르겠어. 그런 나와가 제제 장비 말이야. 이제 당신 가릴 수 있는 사람이 나디는 되네. 내 맞아 내는 까마귀 너는 잡아먹는 화살을 걸어와. 내 맞아. 내가 나와. 얘를 찾는 나 제대. 얘를 쪼는 거 다 가르치고 다 나면은 돈이 벌친다. 돈이 벌도 좀 얘를 벌도 또 얘를 벌도 좀 사는 벌도 좀 돈이 재생이 전랑을 보세요. 따라주구나. 나한테 돈이 가는 걸 남자랑은 이게 두채로 나와야 보세요. 일어나겠습니다. 통통도 동법을 쓰고 있어요. 맨날 내사와 나이 스피드 보도구나. 딱 말안 도구나. 앞에가 기간이 고마다는 거고 장모리고 추로리 사바리고 말고리 사바 배달이 가고가. 이 정말 못하는 걸 데리고 올라. 나 저러다는 걸 데리고 올라. 나보다는 걸 데리고 올라. 사자 주고 나오는 중앙에 사자를 짜주고 데리고 데리고 다 쭉 또 나타나고 또 까먹어. 이쪽 못하고 나물로 까먹어 와서 대답이가 선택하래. 뭐라 이 나쁜 상태 너무 더러워. 또 상조천들 보고 봐. 상조천 나딘 종이 상조천 나가니 지금 보고 대답 요한이 좀 본다. 이제부터 다 이렇게
바꿨습니다.
사탄이 다 보다 하서 사탄이 따라오래. 나 중국을 가면 돈을 내버려야죠.
So then in the next verse it said the speeds that will bring one quicker on the path is diligence, and the enemy is laziness. Also it is said in the fivefold path of Mahamudra, the steeds or the fast force is love and compassion. For as long as we have not exhausted self-clinging, we cannot exhaust the appearances of the negative karmas that we have accumulated due to the afflictive emotions. So for as long as there is self-clinging and anger arises, one will experience the hell realm as a result. And until that result has come to a complete cessation, one has to stay in the hell realms. For as long as self-clinging is present, for however long that may be, one will have to experience the particular suffering. For example, if one has the karma to stay in the hell realms for 1,000 years due to the karma of self-clinging, one needs to stay there until that karma has been completely exhausted. It is like watching a TV show. The show will appear in the TV until the film is completely over or finished. So until we have eliminated all negative karmas and afflictive emotions, the appearances of the hell, for example, will continue to manifest. And what is of benefit in order to repel that is the practice of love and compassion. The practice of generosity, love and compassion. So for example, if one practices love and compassion, then if one would have the karma to stay in the hell realms for 100 years, then one maybe only would have the appearance of staying there for 10 years. there are many methods to achieve that, as we have liberation through worrying, liberation through seeing, liberation through touching, liberation through hearing, and so forth. There are many methods. Or, for example, sometimes some monks, they make a sand mandala, and together with that they mix some hair or some of the bone of the person who has passed away. Then if that person is giving rise to bodhicitta, then that consciousness that has passed away, the body that has passed away, will be benefited. Self-clinging will be diminished due to the power of bodhicitta. That is because we do have the potential of awakening. We are endowed with Buddha nature. It is as though we are asleep, and due to the power of bodhicitta, we are awake, woken up. Even if one has been asleep for thousands of years, if bodhicitta has been arisen, it is as though one immediately would be woken up from that dream or sleep state. But generally, for as long as negative karmas and propensities are present, the appearances of the hell realms will become manifest. For example, to those sentient beings whose appearance is impure, only a single instant, a single minute, for example, may appear to them as though it would be thousands of years. That is the appearance of one's own karma. So whatever practice one is engaging in, one should do so with great perseverance. Be it the practice of emptiness, the meditation on the generation stage, cultivation of bodhicitta, or even in a worldly sense, one should apply great effort, and that effort is like the horse that one is traveling on. One will be quicker. So for example, on the other hand, if one doesn't apply any diligence, it is like walking. Imagine you are walking from one state in America to another state. You would experience great difficulties of cold and thieves and waters, bridges, and so forth. But as you move up on the different vehicles of practice, you begin to travel in a car, then you begin to travel in a fast train, and then you begin to travel in an airplane. The airplane is like the practice of the Vajrayana. But in order to go with that airplane of Vajrayana, one needs to apply great diligence. And in order to go with that airplane, what do we need? We need fuel or like oil. And what that is bodhicitta. If we give rise to the twofold bodhicitta, then self-clinging will be diminished. It is therefore of utmost importance that we apply ourselves continuously with body, speech, and mind to our practice and to the arising of loving kindness and compassion.
야, 아, 나는 간에 내 통화해 보면 되지나? 나는 대표는 올해 나는 세는 받고 또 세는 받고 이 사람은 저는 올해 이는 세를 받는 나는 나를 내가 대다 대마도 나를 좋아해 아무것도 또 내 눈은 이 홀이 꼴리는 손은 백신을 받았어. 그래서 말이 좀 좋아서 홀고 나를 거기서 내가 다시 내가 하다 나는 강해야 내가 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 지금 좀 짓고 근데 저는 내가 발생이고 나와는 호감을 느끼기는 놈들이 대받지네 저기 파마이 사람들이 내 참아서 싸우지 말고 깜짝 놀래 그래 내가 저런 놈을 내가 녹사대 나는 파마 맞으면 내가 파마입니다 이렇게 맞으면 잡히지 내가 내주는 막 느끼지 마 내가야 꼬지와도 막 추천이 야 라자가 강에 대라서 버리고 호마 제가 당연히 죄지면은 양 용공들이 죄지도 뚫는데 그래서 내가 해보고 뚫는데 여러분이 다 제와들은 그 강이 이가를 캔들 남들 문제 이제 좀 되는 말이야 나이 그 문장을 놓고 제와 이해를 비비려 그래 제가 이거 왜 총을 제가 가와 되어 나간 총을 보여준다. 싸우더라. 제가 이거 그러나 나는 그러나 참고 좋아 두세요. 다시. 야, 계단기도 너무 고만 끼리거나. 나는 자탄 병주는 참 맞아요. 이거 시간을 좋아. 제가 지금 삶이 이제 다 버려 가운데 처음으로 이렇게 파만 가지고 장미 봐. 대역사를 이게 삼진을 하지. 얘는 시락들은 여기들이라고 시바를 시락이. 다시 보면 콜로스타와 딱딱 덮고 있다. 이거는 참 따한테 보면 그 말을 자세히라 해도. 야, 얘는 뭐라 밖에 속보라 죽어야지. 광고라 죽어야지. 요하더라 죽어야지. 이 퀴즈밖에 가려야 돼. 하루는 기억이 도랑 탑승해야지. 여러분이 마루 받지는 그래, 그래라. 그래서 다 결국 살아가는 게 있겠다. 제가 상식제, 계시 바이오를 했더니, 계시 바이오를 했어요. 이게 간이 있거든. 그래서 그제가 답을 남아지고 짜서 많이 명거래. 그래서 남편이 뽑았잖아. 그래서 룩각을 좀 살짝도 봐. 룩각 이는 오늘 이만큼 룩각 좀 하고 와. 제 몸이 말했어. 제 가리를 뭐 가리도 사용한다. 가리를 그럼 뭐라도 룩각. 하나 더 와. 이거 뭐만 봐야 돼. 아, 이거 뭐만 봐야 돼. 돈이 말이야. 뒤집어 볼 때. 이게 안 나가는 거. 세금도 밖에 안 나가는 거고 해서. 나팔이 나지 않도록 가지고 누가요 말해서 내가 저라 하는 거는 아니네 직접 광고 짜고 도와주는 광고도 와야 한다 원하는 말이지 애들은 내가 아마 시행자탄 스tam지 미착제를 가지고 저다는 정말 가지고는 라마지 들어와 라마지는 라마지는 산에서 라마하게 지지시 되는 그다음에 스tam지 좀 말라 몸으로만 못해 그때 지시를 했고요. 진실을 쏘는 바빠요 말이야. 진실을 이거 지시제 앞에 봐. 지시를 내가 위치가 제거거든요. 그 진실을 내다고 했나? 예를 들면 양탄 나오는 지냈더니 막고 강제나 그 진실했으니까 저는 내기 제가 내 책제로 올라. 꼭 뺏기다고. 이제 나로 그냥 가고 가서 20m 주문을 계속 양양을 보소. 20m 주문을 따라가면서 세 번째로 계속 통으로 와. 양은 통으로 양만 통으로 들어와. 얘는 이 계시 양다는 게나 이가 계시 저도 남보 공부하 저로 남보 내가 매가 단도 남보 내가 하는데 남보 이시 저로 와 계시 양상이가 제로 소나 빠도 저기 또 남용아 됐다고 해서 라마다 또 문에 아니 뭐래 라마티는 배운적으로 우도 라마티 계시대 얘기가 남의 사지 나는 비기들 라마 얘기가 그래야지 예를 들어 코스타와타 파친도는 좀더 빠지나 그리고는 개발은 세대기 뭘 바다로 가와서 바로 홍콩을 사카를 들고 나무를 들고 자카를 들고 마트에다 데려와 들고 왔더니 이놈은 여만이 상사는 까맣다 되어왔다 점을 대봐야 하고 무슨 원래 점이라는 거고 이렇게 이놈은 다 세나 먹고 세나 절대 그러고 뭐를 그냥 파도 사람들이 마고 그냥 세나 먹는 거고 이거 되는 거고 얘는 야탑을 들고 가와를 상을 접아야지 오늘 하는 주말 생기는 주말에 바로 동동으로 생각이 바로 생기는 놈을 대리점에 거기서 왔다 이 바로 상을 줄줄로 받는 거예요. 그래서 맛있는 자체라 우리는 제도 빠져나가라 내가 내가 남의 제도 남을 내가 남의 제도 강양부터 그냥 좀 동료들이 거기서 영화가 야 기준이야 아니 내가 기준이야 이게 이거 탐지 되고 탐지 되고 진짜 내가 세상 오지 내가 좀 말해봐 뭐래 세상 오지 이렇게 대할 때 그래봐 뭐래 그거가 이게 뭐래国商部之后呢，计划工商这个现在的这个嘛，国商部要这个计划工商，你老大的，往年办那计划工商，要谁了，人家就干了，我的逻辑上的，你这个这个老板当真我说，做写当早你完全是，研究到是的，写当你不没办法的，非常，长你去了的。中层有进去了，对吧？他们去的有去呢。这个马上去了这查他所有去这个，你从了所谓的对吧？当我们知道的。
This teaching truly contains a practice for anybody. Rinpoche says I can give each one of you a practice of diligence. For example, if you have a lot of possessions, a lot of wealth, then you should use that in a beneficial way to benefit, for example, the country, schools, a Dharma center, the general public, like hospitals and so forth. However, you can benefit, you should do so if you can. That then becomes the perfection of generosity. You also have to understand that only due to generosity practiced in previous lifetimes, now you experience prosperity. And if you wish to experience prosperity again in the future, you can only do so through the practice of generosity. There is a practice of diligence through the practice of generosity. Another practice would be, for example, in your own family, to see all sentient beings to be same in terms of having been your family and parents in previous lifetimes. Even if you don't have any money, still you can practice bodhicitta, the view of bodhicitta, through remembering that all sentient beings have been your kind parents in previous lifetimes. And all the expenses that you engage in for your family is an act of generosity. So think about this again and again. Then from the perspective of Vajrayana, understand that all the outer universe and the inner contents, the sentient beings, are pure on their basis. Again and again, recite the Vajra recitation that we have learned. You can do that in all your activities. This will maintain your mindful awareness if you practice with great diligence. Also, some people have different life situations. Some people don't have to work and they have time, they stay at home. Or some people are sick and they cannot practice much. You could, for example, at least spin the prayer wheel. Through spinning a prayer wheel, you will accumulate merit with body, speech, and mind continuously. Then there is other people who do not have time at all, who have to work most of the time. You can still practice the Vajra recitation, and you can perceive all sentient beings to be your parents from previous lifetimes. For example, when you go to work, you can think, all the people that I'm working with have been my parents in previous lifetimes. And the work that I'm performing is an act of generosity, physical generosity. To perform the work perfectly is a practice of moral ethics. To not only think about the wages and to be able to forbear difficulties without getting angry at co-workers, that is the practice of patience. Not to lose mindful awareness and not to get overpowered by afflictive emotions and not to engage in deception, that is perseverance and diligence. So if you cultivate love at all times, and it will be for the benefit of self and others together, it is not as though, oh, this is my benefit and this is for the benefit of the other. The benefit of self and others will be accomplished simultaneously. So whenever you give rise to love and compassion, that will arouse joy and happiness in all the people around you. Everybody will have a true experience and feeling of the love you're feeling. On the other hand, for example, if somebody is always angry and you come to a family's home, then naturally the people in that home would feel uneasy and unhappy. The feeling would come across. Therefore, it is important to continuously meditate on love and compassion, habituate that state. Remind yourself that all parents have been your kind, or sentient beings have been your kind parents in one or the other lifetime. To not let go of this thought, that is the perfection of meditative concentration. And then to maintain mindful awareness and heedfulness at all times, and that is the perfection of wisdom. In this way, in all your samsaric mundane activities, you can perfectly apply the 6 parameters at all times. Also, if you don't have much time for Dharma practice, you can also read the 37 Bodhisattva practices at least once a day. Diligence and Milarepa has said, the rich need the Dharma, the poor need the Dharma, the young need the Dharma. Basically, everybody needs the Dharma practice. The Dharma provides us with many skillful methods to liberate ourselves from afflictive emotions, and these methods are called the Dharma teachings. The true benefit of the Dharma teachings is for self and others simultaneously. And basically those Dharma teachings is the practice of love and compassion. We should maintain this mind through mindful awareness and conscientiousness at all times. Rinpoche remembered a story when he walked with his guru. One time we were walking on the road, and on the road there were some prayer flags hanging, and the sun was shining, so the prayer flags made a shadow on the road. And my guru said to me, "Don't walk on the shadow of the prayer flags. Lift up your mindful awareness into space. Then it will be no harm to walk through." So all those little practices are all in order to maintain mindful awareness. So every time now I'm walking and seeing prayer flags, I have to remember my guru. And also the other practices that we are doing, like reciting the refuge prayer again and again, is for us to maintain mindful awareness at all times. And there indeed is no superior merit than the constant maintaining of mindful awareness. So it is that mindful awareness that is the Buddha actually. First, one needs to recognize the afflictive emotions upon arising with mindful awareness. And in this way, one gradually increases one's mindful awareness. Awareness is like fire. and the afflictive emotions are like the fuel or the wood for the fire. The more wood or fuel you throw into the fire, the greater the fire will become. In the same way, the more of our afflictive emotions we recognize by mindful awareness, the stronger our mindful awareness will become. Milarepa once has said to a Dakini, the spark of primordial awareness needs to be nurtured through recognizing again and again. In the beginning, we have a glimpse of the nature of mind for a very short period of time, but then we need to habituate it, and any time a concept arises, we need to recognize the concept with mindful awareness. Then the concept will be rendered powerless, and it will be transformed into primordial awareness. In this way, each time we recognize this concept arising, our wisdom will increase, and we will accumulate inconceivable merit. So there is some great benefits also of recalling your guru at all times. Your mindful awareness, which is inside you, and the mindful awareness of your guru are inseparable. That is your inner Buddha. So all the activities you engage in this world, you can make them a practice of the 6 parameters. For example, generosity is the antidote against stinginess. So any expenses that we engage in, like going to a restaurant or airplane or paying money to the government and so forth, think that this is an act of generosity and rejoice, and the result will be achieved. If one doesn't understand the benefits of generosity, then one would be stingy and one would not want one's money, one would not want to spend one's money, and out of that stinginess, great harm will arise. So whoever you are paying money for example, think that it is an act of generosity. Then it will become the perfection of generosity, free from stinginess. So at all your daily activities and mundane activities, maintain mindful awareness. Whether you have time to practice or you don't have time to practice, you have to work or you are staying at home or you can't do anything, at least you can spin, for example, a prayer wheel through which you will maintain your mindful awareness at all times. For example, even if you're just sitting in one spot, if you lack mindful awareness, you would just lean back and sit very comfortably relaxed with a dull mind. But if you would possess mindful awareness, you would sit up and your mind would be very clear. It is still the same act of sitting, but the result is different. Therefore, apply perseverance in all your actions. Whoever you encounter, your friends and so forth, see them as an object, as a source of cultivating of love. See them as a wish-fulfilling jewel who give you the opportunity to cultivate love. If you meet with negative associates, then make them your practice of patience. Just as it is said in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, all those who do harm are like a precious treasure. Therefore, never cultivate anger. See your practice of patience like the antidote, like the doctor who provides an antidote. In this way, all your Dharma practice will transform faults into great qualities. But if one doesn't understand that, then, as Gampopa has said, all one's Dharma practice may become a cause for falling into the lower realms.